Hi, I'm Michael Urie, the director of Bright Colors and Bold Patterns, which is on Broadway HD.
All right, well, we can go ahead and jump right in.
Great.
Um, I absolutely love this show. Like I've watched it a bunch of times. It is a very, very good time.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
you guys have done a phenomenal job bringing this to Broadway HD, and of course, it's the perfect thing for people to be watching during Pride Month.
Yeah, it does kind of hit all the Pride notes. You know, people who are annoyed with Pride and people who love Pride will love Bright Colors and Bold Patterns. Drew Droege, who stars in it and wrote it, is one of the best voices we've got, especially in the LGBTQ community. He's so funny and he's so smart. And theatrically, I think this play is one of a kind because he plays one character, but we learn about four. We meet four, and these other three characters that are sort of phantoms. We would refer to them as phantoms when we were working on the show. They are there and they are talking, but we don't see or hear them. We only get who they are through Drew's lens. And it's thrilling to watch. He is completely brilliant in the role. And they did a beautiful job. Broadway HD did such a beautiful job of capturing it.
Now, I will say, like when the play first started and you're first introduced to Drew's character and he comes out and he's talking to, these empty chairs, and I'm like, how is this guy going to be able to pull this off? And of course, it takes literal minutes before you're completely engrossed, completely pulled in, and you're like, oh my God, I totally believe that he's talking to Dwayne or Mac or Neil. Like this is incredible. From your end of it, how difficult is the approach to directing something like this?
Well, it's interesting. When I first got into the project, when I first got involved with the project, I watched Drew do it for an audience in a very small space with nothing. Basically, he had like a couple of chairs and one margarita. That was basically all he had. And uh, and I'll tell you, it worked like that. Like I saw everything. So what's brilliant about what I think is brilliant about the concept is it does ask a lot of the audience. We're so used to movies showing us absolutely everything and leaving nothing up to the imagination. The theater, you can still get away with asking the audience to join you and participate. And this play very much stimulates you to create these other characters through this description and through what you glean about them. And so when I saw it, I had the whole thing in my head, and I thought, I can help you with this. I can help you fill out this world with scenery and props, and I can help you sustain this as a performance because I'm an actor mostly. I've directed a bit, but I'm mostly an actor, and I did a one-person play for a really long time. So I had great tips for how to like keep something fresh for an audience and what things would be sustainable and what things wouldn't, things like that. And be like a sounding board for Drew to the play off of the changes as they happened, or when something like that happens in an audience, how do you react? How do you respond? How do you move forward? Drew doesn't need that much help because he's completely brilliant, but I was, and then I would help with staging. So I would help where furniture went. We had so much furniture in our production. We had so many things. So helping with like, okay, if you're at the bar and you're talking to them, maybe they're over here now. And like, so I would sort of, in a traditional sense, block the scenes. You wouldn't block them in the same way you would block a regular play where you would have to move four people and keep them all seen at all times. You only needed to see one guy, which made my job a lot easier, but also creative. You also have to be creative. Okay, if you're here, and Neil's over here, what does that mean for where Drew's going to be looking all the time? And so much fun of the show is watching Drew ping pong from character to character and always being aware as an audience where they are.
Oh God, yeah, and it's so natural the way that it comes off. And I mean, I even love it when you're watching him like watch a ghost character kind of walk through the room, and he's chasing after them and things like that. I'm like, this is so cool, and this is so, I don't know, it's just so well done. It's a great,
Oh yeah.
great production. How did you end up getting involved in the directing of this for Broadway HD?
Well, I asked Drew if he would let me direct it. And I should clarify, I'm not technically the director of the movie. Um, the I'm the director of the stage play, and then I worked with the director of the movie on the on where to put the cameras on, and then I weighed in on the edit. But they're amazing. This team is amazing. I had worked with this team before on a PBS project, so I actually knew them kind of well, and on actually the solo play I was in. So I had worked with them on another solo play. But this time I got to be in the boot. Well, it was a van really. There was a van outside the Soho Playhouse where they had monitors and stuff, or a truck, I should say. It was a truck, and we climbed into the truck and we watched the feed. Like it was, it was very exciting. And there was, they were inside, the audience was inside, and I think we filmed 2 performances, all the way through, and then picked from each. But so I got the gig because I asked Drew if he'd let me direct the play and help him like flesh it out and work with a producer and get it into a couple of different venues off Broadway. And then when Broadway HD was interested, I collaborated with their team.
I love that. I love that. Now, do you feel like everybody needs a friend like Drew's character in the show? Like, I swear, he's very relatable. I think I actually have a couple of friends that if we mashed them together, it would be that person right there.
I think that's the joy of the play, is that you know all of these people, not just Drew's character, all of them. You're like, I know Neil. You realize like I know these guys, and I think that I've heard that a lot from people that say, like I've I've found a friend, and like, I don't know if everyone should have a friend like Gary or no one should. And I think as you watch the play, you got to go back and forth like, oh, you know what? We don't need that guy in our group. Or yeah, we have to have that guy in our group. How can we not have that guy? And that's what it's. Drew is a genius at not being afraid of looking bad. And I don't mean that as a performer. He never looks bad as a performer. I mean playing a character who isn't altogether likable. He has some opinions that are, he's offensive. Sometimes he's offensive. It's hard to get through that whole show without being offended. At some point, he's going to say something that makes you cock your head and say, wait, hold on a second now.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it. And I think that I will say, having a friend like Gary would really it keeps everybody on their toes. You never know what is going to pop out of him next. And yeah, it's fun. It's just fun. I don't know if people need that in their lives. I like having that kind of chaos in my life, so it's good.
Yeah, there you go.
Now for you, of course, yes, you've got tons of acting credits. Absolutely loved you in Single All the Way. It was such a great Netflix show. Do you prefer being in front of the camera or behind the camera?
Well, it's being behind the camera or behind the scenes in the theater is what's cool about that is that like there's constant simulation. So somebody always needs you when you're the director, whether it's a set designer or a director of photography or a props person or an actor or a writer. Like there's always somebody who's going to need you, and that's kind of great because you're at 10 all the time. And there's something about it being like about always being on and always being working when you're in a project that is, I find, very stimulating and very rewarding, and it helps itself. So in other words, like the more you're thinking about the play or the movie that you're directing, the better your judgment is. The quicker your mind is working. You're in shape because you're always working. Whenever you're an actor, and I feel this on stage and on screen, there's downtime. So you're off stage, or they're shooting someone else's scene, or you're not even on set today. And it makes the time when you are working, when you're in the scene, when they're rehearsing your number, when they're shooting, your coverage, so important. So much more important, because, or at least you're giving it that import because you've been waiting, or you've been thinking about it, When you're the director, it's all the time. You're always on, you're always working. And so it makes the stress just like more, it evens the stress out. It doesn't cause, um, the same kinds of like nerves or butterflies. That said, it's nice to have downtime. So like if you're a supporting actor in a TV show, that's pretty great. You get days off. Um, and when you're in it, like if you're in a musical and you have big numbers, it's nice to be off stage sometimes and have, a breather, get a drink of water, and, being on stage, being on camera, it's that kind of work and that kind of art um, is so rewarding and thrilling, because you're living the human experience in front of people and helping to tell a story in that way. Being on stage is like so exciting, and so there's nothing quite like, I think, being on stage and riding that ride. I think Drew would say the same thing. Like, there were no two performances that were the same, and there never are, because the audience is different. There's no two performances of a play that are identical, and that is really cool, and that really keeps you on your toes, especially in a solo play. You really stay on your toes because who knows what is happening. The audience is absolutely the other character, and they will tell you what the play is. They will help you, or hurt you, but mostly they help you. So I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
Okay. I always like to end with this question. Why do you think people need to get on Broadway HD and experience bright colors and bold patterns?
Well, Broadway HD is an incredible resource, especially for anyone who isn't in New York or doesn't have access to Broadway shows. And even if you do have access to New York or Broadway shows or, local theater or whatever, the amount of theater on Broadway HD, the amount of stuff, you can watch like every Shakespeare play by the Royal Shakespeare Company. You can watch massive, incredible production, Broadway produced musicals. And you can catch things like bright colors and bold patterns, which, maybe Drew will do that again someday, but maybe not. And maybe this is it. And if he did, maybe he wouldn't have, the same kind of a venue. Maybe it wouldn't be as nice of a set, or who knows. So like, Broadway HD is something that is unlike any other. There's obviously, we have so many streamers right now, but nowhere is it completely and totally focused on the art of theater and the art of capturing theater. So whether that's a big, huge musical, a little solo play, or just some great classic text that you've never seen done. You can watch Ian McKellen and Judi Dench do Macbeth. That's
Cool
pretty incredible. How cool is that? They're not doing that again on stage.
Well, Michael, I appreciate your time so much. Like I said, we absolutely loved watching the show, and I hope more people get a chance to log on and experience everything that Bright Colors and Bold Patterns has to offer. And of course, thank you again, and happy Pride Month, everybody.
Happy Pride Month, Raylan. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.